Tucked in a little corner of the globe, littered with stunning beaches and landscapes, but home of some of the most venomous animals in the world, lies the country of Australia, which has also been my home for the last decade. There is so much hype around Australia, and unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard about its reputation for having some of the world's deadliest animals. Now, it's not that that statement isn't true. There are definitely some things that could do some serious damage, but I find that these statements make it seem like these giant venomous critters are just commonly found in the day-to-day life in Australia. And that's where I have to disagree. It is a lovely autumn day here in Melbourne, Victoria, and I came down to the park. It is so loud here today though. There's lots of construction going on, so I think I'm gonna go for a little walk at the beach, head home, and we can continue on this conversation. Because believe it or not, I actually want you to hear what I have to say. But listen, I heard it all before I decided to move here. Everyone and their mom, oh my God, everything there is trying to kill you. What if you hate it? What about this? What if that? And to be honest, my biggest concern about moving here was the bugs. But it's been a decade, so I've survived this far. I might not have done well with bugs, but I spent most of my life wanting to get out of my small town. It's not every day you get the opportunity to move to Australia, so I had to give it a shot. I did not want to live a life that was just based off of the fears of the what ifs and other people's projections of how they would feel moving to Australia or leaving their hometown. I wanted to figure it out for myself. So I moved here and I didn't end up hating it. And over 10 years later, my experience with all the scary things that everyone told me to worry about in Australia has not been very common. I can probably name on one hand the amount of encounters I've had with creepy, crawly, venomous things. And for some, that's a handful too many. I totally understand that. But again, it all comes back to me not wanting to live my life in fear and wanting to try new things, see new places, and leading with that. I will say I'm into camping and adventures, so that does automatically increase my chances of seeing that, regardless of what country I'm living in, you know? When you go out into the woods and into the trees and nature, you're going to encounter those things. And it's just unfortunate that Australia happens to have some of the biggest, disgustingest, creepiest, crawliest.
I have a whole channel dedicated to my adventures in camping here in Australia. If you're interested in checking that out, the link is in the oh my God, I cannot talk today. The link is in the description.
Like I said, we go camping a lot, filming for our other channel, and not once have we encountered a snake. To me, that feels crazy. Especially when we stayed at spots where like the owner has come up to us and said like, hey, a tiger snake lives in this vicinity of this campsite, so just keep an eye out. And we stayed. The thing is, we didn't see the snake. We didn't see the snake, which I am glad that we did not see the snake. Let me be clear about that. I hope I didn't just jinx us never seeing a snake. I hope that we don't see, I like snakes, I don't like to see them when they're charging at me, okay? The one time I did encounter a snake here was when I was on a walking trail with some friends. The thing is, we knew that that walking trail had recently seen brown snakes. Again, my life choices. Why did okay, to be honest, I didn't know until we got there. My friends were like, yeah, no biggie, because they like lived in this area that's like way out of the city. And they were like, yeah, it's no worries. Like, we just be vigilant, you know, have awareness. And I was just like, it's too late for me to back out here. So yeah, and I almost stepped on the brown snake on the trail. It was a small one, it was like a baby, but apparently a giant one was seen swimming in the waters like a few days prior to when we went on the walking trail. So again, it's not like it's not like these things were a surprise though, you know? It's not like these things are just waiting to attack and you're not gonna know. Like, people have been notified of it, and it's your choice whether you want to enter into that. It's not like you're waking up. Disclaimer, I live in Victoria, okay? I can't speak on Queensland, and when it gets tropical in the northern states, all right, that's a different story. It's not an everyday occurrence here that people are finding snakes in their bed or giant creepy crawly things everywhere, you know? It really depends on where you live. Up until that point where I had almost stepped on that snake on the walking trail, which could definitely happen in the US if you are in those areas where there's snakes and you're doing a hike. This is not exclusive to Australia, you know what I mean? And so up until that point though, it had been about 6 years of me living here and I had not seen one snake. So that's what I mean when I say, like, it's not as common as all the memes on the internet make it seem. Now, when it comes to the giant ass spiders, I've seen too much. I've seen more than I want to admit, okay? I am not okay. I'll take a snake any day of the week. I know other people would disagree, but I can't do it. I don't want to do it, okay? My older brother had a pet snake growing up, so they don't really freak me out as much. Even though I know there's lots of venomous ones, okay, ignore that part. When it comes to like living in the inner city suburbs, like I'm like 40 minutes from the city, like similar to like the distance I lived from the city back in Boston, right? Depending on where you live, you're not going to find those big ass spiders in your house. Again, I will say depending on where you live, because I did live in an apartment that was closer to the city, and it was an older apartment building, right? And it was only 2 levels. It was an older apartment building in St. Kilda. They left the hallway to the apartment, like, doors. They left the window open, did not have a fly screen on it. That's also like a thing I've noticed here. There's apartments that don't have fly screens on their windows. No, I would never move into an apartment that did not have fly screens on the window, because like I need to open my windows. I need to have a breeze going, and we can't be letting anyone in here, okay? No. So anyway, that was going on in the hallway of our apartment building. They were just units. I don't know, apartments, units, whatever. So a giant, I'm getting this creepy crawlies just talking about it. It got in and it was living in the hallway of the apartments. So there was like 4 units in this building, and ours was on the 2nd level, and it decided that it wanted to make a little home above the door of the people who lived across the hall from us. This is freaking me out. Okay, let me get it out. Let me just get it over with. So I would open my door and it would be staring at me above their door. And I was just like, I would just like run down and leave the apartment. Like, it took me about like 30 minutes. I would have to get up extra early just to like give myself time so I wasn't late for work, because it took everything in me to just leave the apartment knowing it was out there. Maybe a few days later, I walked out and it wasn't there. And I was like, that's it. It's in my house. It's in my bed. It's found my pillowcase. I was not okay. It moved to another area, I later learned. Eventually, my roommate's boyfriend killed it. Sorry to anyone out there that's like, oh my God, that's horrible. I didn't do it. I didn't ask for them to do it. So that has happened. And it was probably the size of my hand. I do not like reliving these encounters. So please know that I'm doing this for you. And know that because I'm doing this for you, all I ask for in return is for you to hit the like button. Subscribe maybe if you're enjoying this content and you want to see more. I don't know. Just a like will do. I'll take the like, okay? Because I'm shaken. I might not sleep tonight. I know that's dramatic to some people, but I'm not you, okay? I will never be you, okay? Let's move on. The other encounter I had with one of the it happened like 6 months ago. Again, this was me going out into their environment. Like, I camped in a spot, which I will never do again. I learned my lesson. We camped in a spot. We pulled up by the longest, thickest grass ever. It was not a very cleared out campsite. It was spring, the grass was tall, it was the perfect environment. And in hindsight, I was like, of course that encounter happened, because why wouldn't it? Like, look where we slept. Like, of course it's gonna climb into our van. And it did. We have a self-converted camper van, so we go out camping in our van, and the 2 times that we have seen these big, okay, the first one I thought was big. It wasn't. The first one was about this big. I thought that was big, and I literally hyperventilated. If you've seen that episode on the other channel, we had a Hip Camp Summer series. It was the first episode of the Hip Camp Summer series. I literally broke down because I was just making breakfast in the van, and here he comes crawling on my splashback on my pretty little tiles I put on my van. He comes on out like, what's for breakfast? And I was like, hell no. I thought that was bad. But 6 months ago, we made another mistake of parking in long grass, and we paid the price because we opened our van door in the morning. We opened it, and then we went to close it again. Something must have been on the other side of it, because when we pulled it back in, it had crawled to the inside of our van door. So we were closing it inside with us. Thank God we have a fly screen that was in the way of the door and us. When I say this was the size of my laptop screen, oh, you guys, I'm so, let's move on. So we opened the door real quick. It ran away. I don't know what happened. We didn't see it again. And obviously, like, we were traumatized for the rest of the trip. We still had like 4 days to sleep in the van on this road trip. And Great Alpine Road series, if you want to check that out. There's no actual footage of these critters, because we're too busy being traumatized and trying to like survive. And I'm dating someone that is equally scared, maybe not equally, but almost equally as scared of them as I am. So it's not good when this happens. Anyway, we've spent way too much time talking about this subject. I'm not going to sleep tonight. Let's go get comfortable and continue this conversation. And the one thing Australians love to remind me are that they're not poisonous. They won't hurt you, which I understand they're not poisonous, but they are big AF and I can't handle them. And I'm glad that you can handle them, and I'm really happy for you, but don't put that on me, okay? Because we are not alike. And that's good. We're all individuals. That's what makes the world so great, right? So just don't expect me to be you, okay? Because when it comes to that, especially, we couldn't be more opposite. But honestly, I consider myself lucky because I live in Melbourne, I live in Victoria. I live on the bottom ass of Australia. Like Australia's asshole. I also did a video recently just breaking down my experience with the weather here, if you're interested in watching that. It gets really cold down here. We get all the cold winds coming up from Antarctica and through Tassie and all of that. So I feel like all the bigger, creepier, venomouser, all those kind of things are up north. And I feel like the further up north you go, the deadlier it gets. I've heard so many stories, just like the bats, the snakes in the bed, like it's just it starts to get like your classic Australian headlines in the media. Like that's when you start to get all that kind of stuff. And like the saltwater crocodiles, all that kind of stuff. Like everyone's like, I would never jump in a river in Australia. I jump in rivers in Australia all the time. If you watch my other channel, you know that. But I live in Victoria, okay? If I lived in any other state in Australia, the chances of me stepping in a river are probably slim to none. I'm sure that there are places and spaces for it around the country that are outside of Victoria, but I'm gonna need a lot of convincing. Okay? They have those giant ass birds that are dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs roaming this earth in present day, okay? They have the stonefish that's like the most venomous fish in the world, and those microscopic jellyfish that will basically kill you. They're so small and like transparent, like irukandji jellyfish or whatever it's called. No. I live near the Port Phillip Bay and we get jellyfish in the bay sometimes. But usually, before you even get in the water, you can tell if it's a bad jellyfish day. I've never been stung by a jellyfish. And like this is a bay. This isn't even like the ocean. Back in Boston, I lived, like our closest beach was the Atlantic Ocean. Like, that's the ocean, okay? So, like, there's jellyfish, there's sharks, there's everything. It's the ocean, okay? There are no bounds to what's in there. In Victoria, I jump in the rivers all the time, and I feel perfectly fine doing so. And if you know me, that says a lot. It's not like jellyfish don't happen in the US. It's not like there's not alligators and crocodiles in the US. Are they in every state of the US? No, there's specific states. There's certain areas and regions of the country that are known for having crocodiles and alligators, just like Australia.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Australia has alligators, but I know the States has crocs and alligators.
So, like, which one's more deadly? Like, you guys have alligators and crocodiles. We just have crocodiles. Where I lived in the States, in Boston, north of Boston, I did not encounter these types of things. But that's not to say that the US does not have its own fair share of, like, deadly, venomous things. Like bears and cougars and mountain lions. I'm sorry, did we just forget those existed? It baffles me because I actually feel safer camping in Australia than I would in the US, where I would have to worry about bears and mountain lions and wolves and all of that kind of stuff. The most I have to worry about is a spider that's not even venomous, or a snake. But there's snakes in the US as well that I would worry about camping. So it's like, snakes are kind of like, they're everywhere, okay? So like, if you're gonna be camping, depending on where you are, but I feel like most places when you're camping, especially in the hotter seasons, you gotta be snake aware. And I'll tell you what, I think the snakes are the least of your worries, okay? I know there's people out there that are like, oh, bears, they're not that bad. Okay, you do you, I'ma do me, okay? I'ma do me. Let me know in the comments, what would you rather face? If you are into camping, or if you had to choose, like, what would you face? Like, what would you choose to face? Like, what do you think's worse? Obviously, best case scenario is like, I have the best camping experience and I don't encounter anything except for beautiful views and amazing stars, but we coexist with these things, so they're out there. I just don't know if I would be so actively pursuing my hobby of adventures and road trips and camping if I had to worry about bears all the time, because I just don't know if I could do it. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I genuinely don't understand how people are able to sleep in a tent in bear country. Like, how do you sleep at night? How? But it just is what it is, and you have to take the pros with the cons of wherever you live or wherever you choose to explore or adventure. I mean, we do share this planet with a wide range of animals and creatures. So obviously we don't get to just exist on this planet without encountering any of that. We must learn to coexist, and quite frankly, I still don't think humans have learned how to do that. We just haven't got it right. And that's a whole conversation for a whole other day. If you are thinking of moving to Australia and the only thing that's holding you back is thinking you're going to encounter these things on the regular, unless you are moving somewhere like specific to these kind of things, I would say it will be very uncommon for these things to happen on your day-to-day life. Unless you're like moving to like go live on a farm or something. Like the average everyday person living in the inner city suburbs of a major city in Australia. Let me just talk about Victoria, okay? From my experience, if you're moving to Melbourne especially, those things are not going to be common. Especially moving into the inner city suburbs, they don't happen in the day-to-day life. I honestly can't speak on what it's like up in Sydney or Brisbane or, you know, up in Cairns, like up in Perth. Like, I can't fully speak on those things. Like, I know they do happen, and I would be interested to hear from any Australians in the comments, you know, is this common in the day-to-day where you live? Because I genuinely don't think that this is something that everyday Australians are coming into contact. I feel like they do happen, but with moving anywhere, you have to do your research. Join the groups and the forums, learn about the specific areas you're thinking of moving to. Try to get a well-rounded picture of the different areas and which one would suit you best. You know, that's a big pro of living in Melbourne or Victoria. Like, these things are less likely to happen just because it does get cold, but the flip side of that is that you trade off the warmer weather year round. And so you really got to decide what's going to be best for you. It's much colder here and you get more of like a traditional seasonal lifestyle here. which is what I'm used to from back in Boston. I always say I wish I lived somewhere warmer, but when I think about the trade-off of that, the kind of habitat that like a tropical climate fosters and what that brings, I'm like, do I really want to live there? Because like it's a different playing field. All right, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. So for now, I'm gonna take my seasonal cold weather in the colder climates, and I'm just gonna layer up. I've never come across a beach in Victoria that I could not swim in. But the further north you get, like the beaches become more off limit. And so, yeah, I just really think that you have to do your research. I just think that you can't really like generalize the whole country based off of what happens in one specific area, you know? And of course the internet is gonna internet and do its thing, and we're gonna have all these memes that talk about how dangerous Australia is, but I just feel like people have collectively decided that it's the most dangerous place in the world, and after over 10 years here, I just don't agree with that. I think that there are dangerous things here that could harm people. I think that there's dangerous things that can harm you and people that can harm you globally, worldwide, and I just don't think that Australia is out to kill you. So yeah, that's my opinion as an American that has lived here for 10 years. I mean, think about it. If everything here was out to get you, there would be no Aussies here, okay? I wouldn't be here making this video. You know, I would not have survived 10 years if that was the case, okay? I promise you, we are out here living our lives in Australia, okay? So while living in Australia might not be for everyone, I don't find it to be that scary in my day-to-day life. There have definitely been scary moments, but scary moments happen no matter where you live. And I'm just a big believer in taking the leap towards the things that your heart's calling you to do, despite your fears, despite other people's fears, especially because people will have no problem projecting their fears onto you. Even more so when you are daring to do something courageous in your life. So remember that this is your one life to live, so go live it. Live it your way. Create your path, whatever that looks like for you, whatever is going to bring you joy. Try new things even if you hate them. You'll never know if you don't try. Face the challenges along the way. Life is not meant to be perfect. It's okay if you get it wrong. It's okay if you don't like it. Nowhere is perfect, and whether you decide to stay or leave, you are learning more about yourself and the world along the way. So let me know in the comments. Have I convinced you that Australia is not that bad, or is the jury still out for discussion? Would you move here if you had the opportunity? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you tuning in to another video soon. Bye!